opening, bro. Whatever, bro. Whatever, bro. We about to fight.
The doors of the Love Church are now open. Dear world, you name it, we cover it from the world of singles to the behind the scenes of the greatest movie ever filmed, called Marriage. We dig into everything from dating 101. Why won't they commit? It's complicated. I can't do it if it's the three of us. They're a good person, but I'm not attracted to them in that way. 2, they really didn't disclose who they were before I said I do. How do I do this if they can't keep a job? The bills are paid, but the bedroom is suffering. Did I marry you or did I marry your family because we only can take care of us? Let's open up our marriage. Why do I have to buy into your beard gang illusion? You could have told me you were down low and we could have remained friends and not married. And last but not least, did you marry me or your pastor? Have we gotten your attention yet? If so, tune in to Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio, Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, if you want to hear more of today's real issues in the world of love. The doors of the Love Church are now open.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio. I'm your host, Charles Dixon, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Adam Ford. How are you, sir?
What's up, family, on this Thursday afternoon? What's going on with y'all? I'm good, bro. I'm good.
A lot of y'all hyped up today, I see. All right.
I'm not really hyped up. I'm actually good. I'm actually chill.
Oh, you good? You're not really hyped up? Okay, that's what you say now.
Not yet.
Somebody said, I'm all right. I'm not hyped. Yeah, all right.
Not yet.
Yes. So, all right. How has somebody's week been? You know, it's been a lot of, it seems like every week there's something new and crazy going on.
Yeah. So yesterday, I was catching the news from D.C. with the crash that occurred with the flight and the military chopper. Man, my heart goes out to those families, man, that were lost. 60.
Yeah, that's deep.
I'm definitely hoping and praying that that the families will be comforted in this time of loss and everything like that. But yeah, man, that kind of hit me a little, hard. You know what I'm saying? Because it's back home. Yeah,
man. It's a lot. It's a lot going on. I don't know if you know, Adam, but I wanted to also send a shout out, prayer and love to back home, back in DC, the music artist / minister music, Isaiah Thomas. He passed away. He passed away this week. Really, he was a very prominent artist in the DC area, and so I learned of him passing. I want to say he passed probably Monday. It was either Monday morning or Sunday, one of the two.
Oh, wow.
Got it right. I hope I misquoted, but I think when I saw it circulating, I said, "Wow,
yeah,
time is life is so uncertain."
Yeah, and it's short, man. So you got to make every moment count. You got to make every moment count you can. For real.
You got to appreciate this. Look, it's timely and befitting to this topic today because even though we're talking about the art of arguing, but when it comes to arguing, sometimes at the end of the day, when you think about how short life is, it makes arguments look that much more minuscule, right?
Okay.
Some of the things we argue about is like, is this worth arguing over? You know what I mean? Or can we live to see another day? You get my drift?
Yeah, so, real talk, man. Real talk.
Yeah.
For sure.
So yeah, prayers out to all of the families from the accident and Isaiah Thomas and his people, and then so on, folks that lost other people. This seems to be a recurring thing. So we got to definitely keep our prayer hands lifted.
Absolutely.
All right. So, people, today, this is one unique caveat today. Most of the times, I'm putting them on the spot. Most of the time, I didn't come up with these topics, and then, and Adam learns about them on the back end. Well, this time, he said, Adam said, no, this time.
They wouldn't even know. Why would you even do that? But okay, bro, I got you.
Adam said that he has some specific topics that he wanted to also do. So I said, have at it, sir. So this particular topic today is inspire. Let's just say inspire. This is one of a few topics that will be coming your way, but this one in particular is inspired by Mr. Ford. So We will definitely touch into that one. Now, Adam initially put on there as the art of arguing, and then me being extra.
Yes, because you extra.
For me being extra, I had to add the other part on there that said, no, I'm sorry, which one is this one? Let me make sure. Okay, so the art of arguing. Yes, the art of arguing. Oh, do I got this one right? Dang, hold on. Where is it at?
What portrait are you arguments creating? Is that what
Hold on, make sure I got this right.
Oh man, here we go.
Okay, hold on, I got it. Hold on, make sure I know I got it somewhere. Okay, the art of arguing. Then so that's Adam. Then I put on there, what portrait are you? What portrait are your arguments creating?
Right.
And I said, when I saw what Adam initially sent when he said the art of arguing, I thought to myself, if we're putting art into it, we're insinuating a finished product, right? Most art is creative inspiration, whether good, bad, or indifferent. And then what's supposed to happen in an ideal scenario, we don't look at it this way, but a healthy argument is supposed to produce a healthy product on the back end. Like the portrait should be what the two of you all have painted in this exchange. It shouldn't be a bunch of curse words and fingers going like this and all this kind of stuff. It should be something beautiful, not like this, and not a paint like on good times. It shouldn't be all that kind of stuff. It should be something positive. So, with that said, Mr. Ford, you want to do the honors and we can go right on into it.
Sure. How about that? All right, the art of arguing. Contrary to popular belief, an argument in its proper context and tone is probably one of the healthiest things two partners can experience in their relationship. In fact, it is the climax and resolution of the argument where the beauty lies. This is why when we reference the word art in conjunction with arguing, it gives an entirely new meaning to the purpose of its post-portrait-like effect. That's right. Something beautiful should always follow something that holds the cause for growth. The problem with arguing is that most of us have no clue how to do it. If this is true, and if we consider different argumentative habits other than the ones we've picked up from those we were raised and influenced by, is it possible that a good old argument can provide more insight into our partners as a whole and take our relationships to the next level? Join us and help us walk through the atmosphere of arguing.
Don't hate.
I'm definitely not
Atmosphere. But anyway, but no, when you think about this, this topic made me do a lot of retrospective thinking. And one of the things that I started with was most of us, like where do our arguing styles even come from? And most of us, if we're honest, we grew up in a household and our first exposure to an argument was someone of an authoritative figure was fussing at another one, right? Not everybody may not have had their parents. Could have been your aunt, grandma, whomever. But in that household, so the difference is the parents or someone arguing at you about doing something, getting on you about chores is different than two people in a romantic atmosphere of some sort having an argument, right? So we've heard them. Somebody might have gotten cursed out, yelled at. We saw all types of styles of dialogue that in some weird way still ended up with somebody hugging, still ended up with somebody, you see them over there eating their little whatever they meal, somebody may be taking a drink together, whatever the case is. And then we have internalized that to say, well, I guess it's all good. They over there smiling. Never mind how dysfunctional everything we just heard was. But still are over there and they're together. And so I think in life, coupled with the things that we've been through, issues we may have had, problems, hurt, different things and traumas and things that may have happened throughout our lives, when it comes to arguing, it just seems as though we really don't argue. What we do is we approach a situation emotionally, whether it's a man or a woman. We yell, we try to beat our chest to get our point, or we become stubborn to get our point. One way or another, we have these dysfunctional means of trying to impose our points on the other person, right? And so a lot of times, what it really takes is someone taking the back seat to say, I'm mad, I'm upset, but I'm gonna state my point methodically, and I'll sit back and see how you receive it. Most of us don't do that. We just scream and yell. The other person either it becomes a battle of the lungs, or one person leaves, or they just shut down completely, right? So, we have to say to ourselves, how can we be better at arguing, right? It's actually a healthy thing. I think we made the connotation of arguing as a bad and stressful thing, but actually arguing and reaching a point that you both walk away with a better understanding, that's healing, but we don't look at it that way. So,
I've always believed, or have come to believe, that arguing is just another form of communication. I've said that previously on different shows. But yeah, arguing is just another form of communication. However, it's a more passionate type of communication. Some would say that even it's a more hostile form, or even volatile form of communication. But nonetheless, it is communication. And in order for your relationship to grow, in order for your relationship to develop, in order for your relationship to mature, you have to have communication. And sometimes that communication comes in the form of arguing. And I think, like you said, Charles, all of us have been exposed to arguing, but a lot of us, more often than not, have been exposed to arguing that is more negative than positive. Whereas we've been through situation, or we've seen situation where people are yelling at each other almost to the point where they want to fight each other and kill each other. And really, at the end of the argument, nothing gets resolved.
Yeah.
People walk away with hurt feelings. People walk away with relationships destroyed. People walk away feeling like they've been betrayed because of the argument. Yeah. But they did not understand that, again, to have a healthy relationship with somebody means that at some point in time in the passage or in the life of that relationship, you're going to have a disagreement. You're not always going to see everything eye to eye. You're not always going to agree on everything. Why is that? Because we're different people and we have different perspectives. We were all raised differently. We all grew up in a different part of the country. We all speak different languages and have different habits, which means we're all going to have a different perspective on things. And so sometimes in those different perspectives, they can often clash, which leads to disagreements, which leads to arguing. Now, the question is, how do you argue? Do I need to argue it from a negative vantage point in terms of trying to force you to acknowledge that I'm right and that you're wrong? Is that how? Because that often, like you said, Charles, that's what we've all been exposed to. We've all been exposed to, I'm right, you're wrong. You need to follow and do what I'm doing. That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's not real arguing. Real arguing is being able to convince you that I have a different perspective than you, and to be able to get you to consider a different perspective. I'll use this as an example, and we will probably go back and forth with this. When you're dealing with somebody who's in the court system, in the judicial system, you have prosecutors and you have defense attorneys. Yeah. The job of the attorneys, whether you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney, is to convince the judge or the jury that your client either did do it or did not do it. Now, whether or not that person actually did the act is really immaterial. If the prosecution has enough evidence to convince the jury or the judge that they actually did do it, then they win. But if the defense attorney can convince and persuade the jury or the judge that this person actually did not do it, then they win. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is this. In arguments, my whole job is to persuade and convince you that I have a different perspective than you do, and I need you to at least consider that in terms of what you're thinking.
You know, as I heard you talking, it made me think of the fact. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You kind of started a little bit.
Yeah, it made me think of most of what we have been exposed to hasn't really been arguing.
Okay.
It's been fighting. We've been exposed to fights. Whether you know, they may not have been physical where you come into blows and tussling on the ground, but when you step back and look at them, fighting is two people trying to one up one another physically or verbally. You're just going at it, and I want to show you my dominance in this situation. So we go at it, we hit below the belt, we say things that we know will paralyze the other person on purpose. And that's not arguing, that's fighting. And I think the first thing we need to do is unpack that a lot of what we have been what we've paid witness to since our childhood has not been healthy, constructive arguments. They have been fights, right? Flat out fights. And so let me do a quick definition of argument. So, all right, argument in a relationship is a disagreement between partners where both individuals express their differing viewpoints on a particular issue, often involving raised emotions and the need to communicate and potentially compromise to reach a resolution. Essentially, a verbal conflict where both people are trying to persuade one another to see their perspective. So, yeah. So with that being said, we have to unpack that, because like I said, too many times, especially, and I'm not saying this to any other person, but in our community, we do more fussing and fighting than we do arguing. I mean, that's why we have coined the phrase toxic so much, because we know what's happening is not nowhere near healthy. You know, the way we're doing things, the way we, as we say now, how can we call an argument something where we're dragging our partner? As they say, that person dragged them. That's not an argument. And an argument is not supposed to subtract love. Love should still be the equation. So if love is being detracted from the argument, then is it really love, right? The whole point of arguing is I'm doing this out of love so that our love can be preserved. That's the whole point. But we like I said, we fight and we look for reasons. And a lot of times, honestly, when it comes to us so-called arguing, we're not honest that a lot of times the way we fight, we're fighting purposefully to self-destruct, self-sabotage. We're not trying to reach a resolve. We're trying to throw all of the negative things in your face so that you could be overwhelmed to be like, well, what else is there to do? You just killed me with all the words, right? So there is nothing else I can come back and try to lift up to say, all right, this will work out, because you done shot me down. So
You know, and I want to kind of chime in on what Dionne Robinson said. She said arguing doesn't involve name calling or being degrading, and it kind of really goes to your point, Charles, about the fact that we're not doing a lot of arguing as much as we're doing fighting. And in that fighting, we are literally trying to prove our point at the expense of the relationship that we have with the person. You know, And so now we have subtracted the love element from the equation, and now we're just fighting at each other. Yeah. But here's the thing that I want to kind of say, and I don't, this is not anything to anybody's credit or whatever like that. But when I consider my marriage with my wife, we have had arguments. Oh my God! Yes, we have. Listen. I love her. Y'all know I do. But we have had some arguments. Okay. Yeah. I will say that in every one of our arguments, even from the very beginning of our relationship, we have never, ever. See, she said, I agree. Oh. So what did I say before the show started? What did I say? I knew she was going to go. But listen, so in our arguing, and we have had arguments. We've had many arguments, not a whole lot, but we've had enough to go. Yes, we have arguments. Yeah. But in all of our arguments with one another, we have never name called one another. We have never used derogatory language toward each other. We've never been demeaning to each other. All of our arguments have been, yes, heated and passionate, as you will. But they've never been arguments that detract from us. They've never been arguments that destroy the other person. Yeah. And this is how you have to distinguish and differentiate your fighting from your arguing. Because fighting means I want to literally destroy you. I want to take you out. Okay, and you're feeling this way, but then it makes me question: do you really love that person if you feel like that? Wow! And so love has to be the start. Watch this. Love has to be the starting point for the argument. Because if I'm not in love with you, if I don't love you the way that I say that I do, then yeah, I don't want to fight you. I don't want to destroy you. But if I'm arguing, what I really want to do is I want to win you over. Like I said in the beginning, in my arguing, the purpose of my arguing as a defense attorney is to convince you that it did not happen. I want to persuade you enough to get you to consider my perspective, to see it from my vantage point. And I think when you're able to do that to the other person, to get them to consider your vantage point and your perspective, what's going to happen is they're going to go, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to think about it from their end. Maybe I need to consider that maybe they're not as wrong as I think that they are. Because I think often, a lot of times, when we're arguing with somebody, all we really want to do, Charles, is prove that we're right. Yeah. You're right. As I like to say, you're going to be right, but you're going to be right by yourself. Because what you've done is you sacrifice our relationship in order to make yourself feel good, feel right.
In order to be right.
But that's not really arguing. A successful argument doesn't need to prove that it's right. A successful argument says, I just need you to look at this from my perspective. And in doing that, I am able to win you over. And this is what our relationships often lack. That I want to talk to you. I want to communicate to you in such a way that you go, okay, maybe it's just not about my opinion. Maybe I need to think about somebody else's opinion so I can get a different perspective on this particular matter.
That's true. Yeah. Man, so listen, as you were talking, I was thinking about something, and here's something that we don't also consider.
Okay.
If I'm thinking in my past, I'm thinking about some things and maybe the way I've approached what we call arguments. Like I said, everything I don't think was an argument, right? It was fighting, right? Argument or whatever. So, but one thing I've learned is that just much like in a courtroom, there is no such thing as a defense lawyer or what you say the other one was
prosecutor.
What's the other one? Prosecution. Either one of them never show up to the courtroom without having their file and their photo of due And so we're going to compare the file and due diligence to real relationships and bringing your, like, you got to have something for the person in order to have the patience to argue.
Okay.
Right? You got to have, like, if you ever notice, if you don't care sincerely, you don't want to hear it.
Right.
Like, if you don't care, you don't want to hear it. And even when you care, you want the problem to be fixed, but you know that some arguments won't be.
What happened? Still there?
If we don't allow our heads to prevail, there will not be any resolve, right? We'll just be going at it, and that's going to be that. Can you hear me?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, you kind of froze up. You're back now.
Okay. So one thing so that leads me to say, most of the time we specialize in giving someone a piece of our mind. But we fail to give them a sentiment of our heart. A healthy argument needs a sentiment of your heart, not a piece of your mind. Because Lord knows what's in our minds. So we don't need to give, because the things that we're given in our minds are things that are not going to help smooth over or heal anything. The things in our mind that we're going to tell you are things that's going to hurt your feelings.
Okay.
You know, once we resort to telling you our mind, we're in it to maim you in the relationship. So the point is, we need to say, am I giving a sentiment or am I giving a piece? What am I doing in the relationship here? How am I approaching this? And so, you know, we have to think about this thing. And so when I thought about the topic, when I thought about the title, The Art of Arguing, the first thing I thought is, let's talk about the artist. And what does most artists have that most of us that call ourselves arguing lack? And that is skill. Artists have the skill because they know what they're trying to create.
Exactly.
So if you're a skillful lover, you know what you're trying to nurture, what you're trying to build, what's the portrait that you're trying to ultimately display. So if you're not able to be that person to say, you know, what kind of brushes, strokes should I use on this canvas?
Yes.
I know what kind of person this is. It's not going to help me to use these little tiny dots. I need to pull out my big brushes and get good, strong, broad strokes across so the point can be made.
Right.
Maybe I should look at strokes. But anyway, so the point I'm just saying is, we're trying to, we got to be skillful in our disagreements. Like, we can't just be reckless, and we can't just be the strongest voice, loudest voice in the room. I'm going to do this, that, and the other, because these things tear us down and they don't do anything for the relationship. So I think, you know, when I heard you come up with this topic, the thing I wanted to walk away with, even my own self, is you want to walk away with tools to say, let me analyze the way I disagree. Am I calling myself arguing and ending up fighting or avoiding? Because I know I could be good at avoiding. Now, I can tell you that I'll give you my argument for avoiding. My argument for avoiding is I'm a big proponent of allowing cooler heads to prevail.
Right.
Because a lot of times when you try to prove a point or when somebody's trying to tell you what's wrong and all this, it's not that you don't care what's wrong or that it doesn't matter. I just know through life and experience, most points are better made when both people are at a cooler place.
Oh, yeah.
If we hot and in our emotions, you're going to say some things that you probably can't take back. Right? You probably can't take some things back. Because sometimes when you push a person to a place, you're going to be, I can remember one time, I was really at the edge of a relationship because I was tired of the person, just being honest. But I cared enough to, as they say in the Tyler Perry movie with Janet Jackson, to get in the ring to argue about it, to try to salvage it, right? And so when I tried to have the conversation, and the person's argument style or fighting style I don't think we were doing the argument back then, but the person's fighting style was just, I mean, they were just way up here. And all I could hear was Charlie Brown. Wow, wow. I tried to tell the person, I said, listen, it's not that I don't hear you or understand where you're coming from, but I think we should table this until blah, blah day, because this is not constructive. Blah, blah. They kept on. It got worse. And so that's when I said, well, if we're going to get worse, we're going to get worse. So I said, period. Don't forget it. I said, unfortunately, I don't have enough in me for you to give you what you're looking for in this. Right. I tried to salvage it with you. You don't want to hear what I got to say. You don't think what my point is relevant to the argument. So I'm just going to just be honest with you and tell you, ding, ding, the bell is rung, the fight is over. You win, I'm out. So right. You gotta know when you're in those rings, they got the white flag and they got the doctor looking to see what punishment is being taken for a reason. Yeah. Fights don't occur without an audience that's supposed to intervene or stop the fight or referee the fight. So when things get to the point where it becomes an all-out brawl, you're not having an argument no more. You're in an all-out fight. Yeah. So you got to know what to do to salvage the situation. Some people, unfortunately, all they know to do is to fight. Some people don't have a clue how to argue. All they know how to do is yell, hurt you with some words, or if they don't hurt you with the words, they're going to be quiet and hurt you with the actions. Right. Some people don't know how to constructively say, okay, what's wrong, baby? Tell me. I'm going to just sit here and listen, and I'm not going to say a word. I won't interrupt you one bit. And just sit there and listen. And when you get done, can I speak? I heard what you said. I just want to make sure you're finished. Sure, go ahead. And now let's go back and forth. We don't do that. We get emotional. We get mad. We get upset. And so it's just who you think you are, or vice versa, or the men going to tell you about yourself. Men know how to throw some low blows too, Adam. We know how to say some things that'll throw some low blow. Your little stupid greens, your greens is nasty anyway. So we know how to say things to make somebody be like, well, but anyway, but no, seriously, everybody listening to this show, all of us are not professionals. We have not went somewhere and became a doctor and received a doctorate in arguing and and all that kind of stuff. Most of us, at best, I'd be willing to bet, we approach arguing quite dysfunctionally. Yeah. And sometimes I'll beg to differ that person that will say, oh no, my arguments are great. That's just because the other person chooses to be quiet. Wow. When people really want to tell you something, you got to be, some people are so dominant that the other person just don't feel it's worth the argument. So they don't say anything. It's not that you got a good relationship and we don't fight. No, the person just don't talk because they know if they do talk, you're going to get your feelings hurt. So people just sit back and just go along to get along. And a lot of times people don't talk because they observe you doing the most consistently. And they say to themselves, well, I don't even think trying to argue with this person would probably be constructive. So let me just sit back and let them have at it. So a lot of times you got to know, because when somebody is domineering and think they know best and controlling, a lot of times all we are doing is trying to wheel on you the strength of our dysfunctional history. And we're trying to force it on you. We're trying to force our way of dysfunction on you. This is the way, as a child, I handle conflict. Never mind, I got smacked upside the head with a broom. This is how it works. No, that's not work. That's dysfunctional. Yeah. But we will try to sell it to our partners because that's all we knew. Right. Some of us didn't have no parents. So the street was our authority. So we learn things, street law. We learn yelling and cussing and, don't step in my space when you talking to me, or I'm gonna do this. We learn some real dysfunctional, ugly characteristics, and we use them in relationships. And so if we love each other like we say, we need to take the time to educate ourselves to say, all this time I've been married or in a relationship or even single looking for one. Have I been arguing or have I been fighting?
Yeah.
Most of us, if we're honest, we've been in fights, not arguments. Arguments are healthy. A good argument is healthy, even if one person or the other walk away crying. You walk away saying to yourself, wow, that didn't necessarily feel good, but I'm glad it got out how that person really feels. And now I can take the steps to fix the actions. And now we can move on, right? But if you just you get mad and you look for other answers or other people, that don't get me started on that. We think the answer to a lot of our arguments is other people. And the thing is, another person is another human being, and another human being prone to argue with you too if you don't give them the way. See, a lot of times we look at the other person as an outlet to our dysfunction that we have not addressed. But we go over here to the other person and we sell them a mirage version of us. Because it's not the real version. It's just the version looking for some comfort in the interim. So we go over there, we get the comfort until one day that person who you think is the sweetest and kindest, and they don't play about me. That person who we think is all this kind of stuff, one day they're gonna call you and you're not gonna answer. And then they're gonna be like, I tried to reach you the other day, but I didn't hear back from. I mean, in fact, you didn't call back until 2 days later. I mean, what's going on? Now you're like, uh-oh, psycho. Now you're realizing I made a premature decision in a state that was undone, and now I'm being entertained with something that I haven't even vetted. So now I don't went from jumping in the fire pan to the furnace, trying to call myself looking for some solace somewhere. Yeah. When a healthy argument, this is the caveat, when a healthy argument with someone you still love is the answer. If you don't love them, it don't matter how healthy the argument. Right? You got to be honest with yourself. If you done, if the love is gone, the thrill is gone, don't fool yourself going through the motions. But if you still love, healthy arguments are for people that still have existing love. If you don't have existing love, it's a moot point, because it's just going to feel like you're going, yeah, are you finished? All right, well, I'll see you later. I'm going to work. You don't care because you're done. So like I say, but if you love the person, you both need to take the time to unpack what you call an argument and identify that, baby, that other day or that last month when me and you had that big problem, that big blowout argument, that really wasn't an argument. I was just cussing at you. I was yelling. I left the house. I was fighting. I wasn't even arguing. Let's unpack and see how we can repackage some of these disagreements that we have so that they'll have more of a healthy output. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know exactly. I'm agreeing with everything you pretty much said, man. I just want to kind of jump back to some of the things that you said. And I think this is something we kind of need to focus on, because it's going to help us. It's going to help a lot of us to rehabilitate our understanding of what it means to argue with the one that we're in relationship with. Because like you've said, many of us have the template of our family, our mom and our dad, if you will, and we've seen them go through that process of arguing. But in all reality, it wasn't arguing; it was more of a fight than there was anything else. Even as I'm sitting here, and when you were talking, I thought about the arguments my mom and dad had and what they looked like. I don't even want to talk about it, but it was this one particular fight that was like the fight of fights for them.
Wow.
Woo, Lord, Emerson, that thing was woo, yeah, woo. Tyler Perry ain't got nothing on this.
Wow.
This was a fight, okay?
Yeah.
And when I think about that, I think about how that affected me.
Yeah.
And how I did not want that in my marriage or relationship.
Yeah.
That I wanted it to be different from what I saw. And so in a lot of regards, y'all, we're going to have to literally change and rehabilitate the way we think about arguing when it comes to our loved ones.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we probably said this before, that you, in terms of being in a relationship with somebody, you really need to understand them and know them. And this plays a large part in our arguments with them. Because it's going to help to inform you how you should argue with them. There are certain things that you should do with them in terms of arguing with them. So there are certain things that you should not do with them. But the only way that you're going to know the difference between the two is that you understand and you know your person. You know what their triggers are. You know what their deficiencies are. You know what their strengths are. You know what's going to set them off. And so when you have that understanding, it helps you to argue better with them. One of the things that I really want us to focus on is, like you said, Charles, and I had it in my notes to mention it if you didn't, is the fact that arguing, or the art of arguing, requires technique and skill.
Yeah.
This is not just something that you just jump off and do, but it is a skill and a technique that you have to develop if you're going to be good at it. Not only if you're going to be good at it, but if you're actually going to resolve the issue. Like, a lot of us argue and we fight, but we don't resolve what the issue was. We started out with the issue, we argued about the issue, and then we walked away, but the issue was still there. There was no resolution to the issue. Well, if I'm going to be a good arguer, that means I need to develop the skill and the technique to resolve the issue, so that the issue is not here, that the issue is still not present, okay? But that we have worked together in terms of our different perspectives. We have worked together to resolve the issue. So one of the skills I want to talk about is this, and this is really more of a question for us to consider, is this, because this makes the difference in terms of how you're going to argue. Are you a talker or are you a listener? We all know what the difference is between a talker and a listener is, right? You know, a talker talks and a listener listens. But sometimes, more often than not, talkers need to listen. Talkers need to be quiet, and they need to actually listen to what the other person is saying. Often, a lot of our arguments can be resolved if we just listen to what the other person is saying. If we take time to listen to what they're saying and understand what they're saying, and then we go, oh, that's what you're talking about. Oh, that's your perspective. Oh, that's how you think about that. I did not know that. You know, the reason why you did not know that? Because you weren't listening. You were talking. And let me put a pin in that and talk about this for a hot second. A lot of us, when we're arguing with somebody, we will be quiet, just like you said, Charles, long enough just for them to stop so we can say what we want to say.
Yes.
And we have not been listening to what they've been saying all along. We just wait our turn to say what we want to say. But that, again, that does not resolve the issue. The whole point of having this argument is to resolve the issue. And so if I want to resolve this issue, I at least need to be able to consider what your point is. And for me to know what your point is, I have to listen to what you're saying. Another subtext to this listening part is we need to have patience with what the other person is saying. A lot of us are too impatient. We don't want to wait to hear what they have to say. We want to already render whatever our judgment is. We don't want to wait. We need to learn how to be patient with our person and listen to what they have to say. Here's the flip side of it. Some of y'all who not talking in your argument and you just letting the other person talk, you need to speak up and say what's on your heart and mind. You need to be a talker. You need to say what it is, and you need to be specific and explicit with what it is so that they understand where you're coming from. Talk about what you're feeling. Say it. It's okay. Hopefully they won't kill you in the process. Hopefully they still love you after you said what you said, but you need to say it. If you don't say it, how am I supposed to know it? Yeah. Again, we don't read minds. We don't do that. But if you say what it is, then that gives me the opportunity to consider what your perspective is. Here's another thing that we need to develop as a skill. And again, I understand that arguments can be very emotional. Arguments can be very passionate because we're feeling what we're feeling, okay? But what I need us to understand is that in your arguing, you need to, at some point in time within that, you need to subtract your emotions and just go by the facts of the issue. So it's not so much all the time about how you feel, because feelings are feelings. Feelings are not facts. And again, a lot of times we're talking about what we feel, and we need to know what you feel. I want to hear how you feel, but let's not forget about the fact of the situation. You know what you feel, absolutely. But there are facts that need to be considered here so that we can resolve this situation. Last point I'm going to make, and I'm not going to say nothing else. We need to think about how we avoid or how we confront whatever the issue is. Again, I understand, some of us want to avoid the argument. Okay, go in the corner, get yourself together. Go over there and do what you need to do to get yourself together. But you cannot avoid this. You need to confront this. We need to get together and deal with this, because all you're avoiding is doing is delaying what we need to deal with. That's all you're doing. We need to be able to confront this. And in my confrontation, as I bring this to a close, in my confrontation, I'm not trying to be conflicting. Okay? I'm trying to deal with the issue as it is. I learned a while ago that I don't like confrontation, but I understand that confrontation is necessary. If we're going to resolve whatever this is, that means that we need to have a conversation about this.
Right.
And my confrontation doesn't have to be negative. My confrontation doesn't have to be hostile. My confrontation doesn't have to be volatile. But it can be a simple conversation that we have with one another so that we can resolve whatever the argument is.
Wow, I mean, somebody's preaching, anyway. So listen, that was good, man. What I was thinking while you was talking is there's something we can take away from boxers who are fighters and lawyers.
Okay.
Boxers, the whole goal of a boxer is to study their opponent's fighting style in order to expose their weakness. Lawyers are trained to argue the facts, not opinions. The judge don't uphold opinions, only facts, right? So if we could use the lawyer piece of arguing the facts and use the studying piece from the boxer, not to learn of our weaknesses, but to learn how to handle our partners. Like I shouldn't say something to trigger them, right? I shouldn't say this because I know they have had trauma in this area. So if we take those kind of styles and put together, we would come a really successful arguer, right? Yeah. In our relationships. If we come up to have these disagreements, we agree, let's argue the facts, not the feelings. Right? Let's argue what is what. Let's argue what we know, not what we think, what should be, what you didn't do, what is on the table. Don't bring up history in the present. If we have an argument today about a specific issue, Then don't say, well, you just like you did last year, 2 years. That's gone. We are here today. Let's argue in the moment.
Right.
You know, and another thing that we do is when I think of a big argument, I liken it to, let me see, I kind of put a note here. I liken it to like, hold on, let me see. Like the pain, likened to the agony, an argument to me is likened to the agony of, the agony felt in the pregnancy, which represents the argument, and the healthy delivery of the baby represents the successful resolve of the argument. Okay. So while the woman is in agony and she's like, oh, she's screaming, but we all know some pregnancies can go awry, right? If that doctor isn't skillful. So when that doctor is skillful, he's going. All of the steps will be marked in that argument in the maternity room, and then before you know it, here comes the successful delivery of the baby, the outcome of our argument. Right? The outcome should be beautiful. It should say, you know what, that hurt, but I love you for saying it. Right? I didn't like it, but if you're still committed to us, and you're not telling me, because see, pain feels different when somebody tells you something for reasons of finality and not reasons of correction. Okay, it hits different. When somebody is trying to call themselves giving you true, and then, but that true is because they're done. It feels different when somebody's saying, I said this because I love you, and I don't want us to. I want us to live. That's why I told you that. So when you tell people things that, because a lot of times people will always bait you to discuss things and to talk. And I know I've been guilty of harboring a lot of things that I knew would probably hurt someone if I told them, right? Like sometimes people would say something, you and I talking, and a lot of times I would say, my silence is what's keeping the oxygen.
Wow.
If I talked, you might as well unplug the oxygen tank. Sometimes you gotta be wise and say, listen, this ain't the time to say what you're trying to make me say. Right. Let's keep breathing. Let's keep breathing another day. Because if I talk, you're not gonna like what I said. It's gonna liken you to the oxygen being taken away. So let's just leave it at that. So my point is, so we just, like I said, you got to love your person enough to respect things about them when you are arguing with them. You know, it's not the time arguing is not the time to just say, you know what, I'm going to talk about that time when he that's why they garnish his check. You're going to make it up, but you know, whatever you want to say, something hurt each other and he going to say something to you. That's not arguing. Because nothing about that brings a resolve. It only brings more hurt and resentment toward each other. And like I said, let's get out of this whole thing of bringing people into it. If you want to bring other people into it, bring them into it when you are done, when you walk away. Don't keep them there, because another person is not a buffer in an argument. It is a problem to the argument. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you got to remember that, because a lot of times we will do that, because anybody that's living in a hell-like scenario, any person that says something to you feels like a euphoric experience. Somebody can be like, how you doing? You look nice. I look nice? Because in your mind, all you used to is just the chaos. So the first thing someone says sweet to you, in that moment, you're gone. You're going to go, right? In the moment, you're tired of it. At home, you sick of that. You're going to go over here. But that's some of the worst mistakes we've ever made in life have come from us stepping out. Wow. A lot of people have stepped out and have stepped into death, have stepped into emotional death with your relationship, communicable death in your relationship, to physical death, because we chose some people who we didn't vet, right? Wow. And you nearly lost your life if you didn't, right? I'm only saying this from experience. I have called myself tapping down the hall on several occasions, only to backtrack like Michael Jackson.
Not like Michael. Lord.
It ain't smart to add people to the equation. If you got problems, try your best to get in the ring and talk through the problems. It's actually a beautiful thing when you come through problems and get to a point where it's not totally healed and totally not fixed. Like, you got to be realistic, but to get to a place where both people respect the fact that you cared enough to argue for the relationship or the marriage, that's invaluable. When you get that, that goes a long way. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, I think we started out with this principle, this idea that it has to be based on love. Because in our discussions in terms of how passionate we are, if it's not based on the fact that I love you and that I don't want to lose you over this particular thing, then there's no point in arguing then. Because now the relationship is not worth anything to me. If there's no love in the midst of this whole conversation that we're having with one another, then what's the point of doing all of this? The reason why I have arguments with my wife and she has arguments with me is because we do love each other, okay? And we're not necessarily seeing eye to eye on this particular thing, but we realize that we need to begin to come together on this in some way, form, or fashion, because if we don't, then it could possibly mean the end of the relationship. So that means we have to begin to work out whatever the issue is.
Yeah.
And we have to come from a place of love to be able to do it. If we're coming from anywhere else but love, it ain't gonna matter. It's not gonna work. I'm gonna tell you right now. It ain't gonna work. Because I love her the way that I do love her, then I have to, as a partner with her, consider her perspective.
Yeah.
I don't want to be right by myself.
And here's the other part. We didn't talk about this, but you gotta learn to read the room. And when I say read the room, you gotta, when you're having arguments or disagreements, you have to be smart enough to listen for what's not being said.
Right.
Because a lot of times when we are in arguments, a lot of fights that we have are not fights for that present moment.
Okay.
They're a fight from something else, right? It's a fight from another offense or another act of negligence, or listen, here's where it gets deeper. Sometimes we fight out of guilt because we have wronged you unbeknownst to you. And so we will argue and it's deflecting. That's what we call it. We deflect onto you the guilt that we feel. And because we are guilty about a decision we made behind your back or an act we did behind your back, it becomes, I mean, I don't know why you ain't fix my food anyway. And you sitting here like, I fix breakfast every morning, but the bacon is burnt. And you really mad because you know you out here wilding. You being messy or you in a mess. So because of it, now you want to take it out on the person. They can say anything and you're going to set off because you're guilty. So that's why I said we got to learn, if you really love somebody, you better learn to read the triggers of who they are. Because when you love a person and when you learn to read room, when you're having these discussions and these arguments, if you listen enough past your emotions, you can hear that this is about something else. This clearly can't be about what we're talking about today. Because this is very light. So the fact that it's heavy, what else is really happening that you're not communicating? Because it can't be this. Like, I get it. I'm wrong. Sorry. Okay, we should have did this. We should have not did that. Whatever. But be honest with me. Don't smack me with something meant for someone else. Right? Don't smack me with no guilt. That's really, you just need to work out and fix and stuff. Or stop doing before you get back to me. right? Don't come bring it to me because you're guilty. So we just need to work on that, because a lot of times these arguments, so we call, are about so much more than what we call ourselves arguing about. And that comes back to what you always say, Adam, communication. Yeah. If you talk along the way, and when I mean talking, it's a skill. Talking to someone and how you convey the information to them is key. People only receive what they can really hear. But if you just, like you say, I say it like this, but men can do it. This is a universal term. We equate women to nagging, right? But if you got an emotional man, he'll nag you too, right? An emotional man will nag a woman too. So the point is, nagging is nagging. So nagging is not a healthy arguing style for anybody. If you want to talk to somebody, talk to them reasonably, season your words with grace, and talk to them. But don't come with this whole indicting tone, and it's just feel like the term is. You can tell when somebody's arguing in a way where they're trying to drive the conversation to a point, and it's like, are you want to get my opinion, or are you just trying to collect my words so you can dump on me? What are you doing, right? So let's figure this out in a healthy way so that we can have a healthy communication style. Because a lot of the times these arguments only come up because failed communication attempts. And if you think you have said something a million times to a person, because I hear somebody right now in the audience saying, well, I said that to them a million times, they didn't listen. It's because they rejected your communication style. They heard you, they got ears, but your style does not allow your words to fall on good ground. That's why you keep repeating it over and over again. When you get mad, say, I told you that a million times. Who wants to retain that rhetoric? I don't. I don't want to hear somebody tell me that way. But if you say something to me in a way to make me absorb it well, I'm like, you know what? I appreciate the way that the love you packaged on that, the way you delivered it. I can rock with that, as opposed to I done told you a million times. I mean, who wants to hear that? Nobody. It's not constructive language for nobody. And at the end of the day, this is what I would say. A sign of someone mastering the art of arguing between two is both people respect the method of one another's arguing style. Okay. When you both get to a good place, when you don't even look at arguing as something bad, it's almost like we'll be going to go eat, babes. We can go discuss this. All right, we meet the restaurant and we sit there. All right, what's the problem? Lay it on me, and then we talk. And then we almost laugh about it, but we come to a resolve and we leave. If we have to dread coming to the argument, something is wrong. Somebody's style, or both of you all style, is wrong. And basically what it's saying is, when it's painful and you don't want to argue, it means you don't trust the person's arguing style. And you think if you sit there and listen, you don't know what's going to come out their mouth. So you don't want to do it. So you got to say respect. Respect comes from a skillful argument. Yes. So we got to remember that. We want respect. Let's argue skillfully and let the other person say, wow, this surgeon, look at how we love our surgeons. If somebody do something, we go get some surgery done. And if it works well, if it looks good, we'd be like, oh my God, doc, you did amazing. That's how our argument should be. Oh my God, babe, I appreciate the way you handled me. Period. That's how we should be doctors of one another if we call ourselves loving each other.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'll say just as simply as this. It's not just what you say, but it's how you say what you say. And I've always been a believer that before I say it to anybody, I say it to myself first. I assess how I would receive it. and then think about the other person who I need to say it to. I always want to be a person that is tactful. I always want to be a person that has a language that is diplomatic. I want to be a person that when I speak, that I'm explicit and specific about what we're talking about. And I'm not going to allow my feelings to completely override my intellectuality. I'm not going to allow my feelings to completely override my cognitive ability to think critically about a situation. And so this is how I communicate. So that, and again, my thing is this, and this is my own personal philosophy. I want to deal with you in a way that allows me to win you over. That's what I want.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so last but not least, people, remember this when we are encountering these relationships and we're trying to figure out where we stand. Lack is loud and comfort is silent. If your love is loud, there's lack. If it is comfortable, it is silent. You're not going to hear a lot when it's going fine. But when it's really loud, there is lack somewhere that you're not paying attention to on tonight. Now we'll take some offering on that note.
You know what?
No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, no, listen. No, I appreciate you guys really for tuning in yet another week. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Ford for his communication on the art of arguing on tonight. You know, we shouldn't encourage him because now he's gonna start feeding me all these topics that we gonna be like.
I got a whole 2 pages of topics. Keep on playing with me. I got a whole 2 pages just for you, John.
Right. But no, yeah, like you said, y'all, thanks for tuning in to Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, unless something comes up that we always will let you guys know in advance and we'll adjust the time accordingly. But let's remember, if you don't get nothing from today's show, reevaluate the way you define arguing and observe to yourself, have me and my person or me and my spouse been arguing, or have we just been fighting all this time? And I promise you, a healthy arguing style will produce better results. Yep. Instead of arguing and fighting and throwing shoes virtually and arguing with each other and all this foolishness. And yes, whatever. Yeah. All right. Now, on that note, now
there we go.
I can give a real opinion about arguing. All right, Mr. Ford. So, no deflecting, people. Deflecting is, I believe, if most of us stop deflecting from the real internal roots of the problems we have, our arguments between one another will be fewer. So that means if I'm not able to deflect, that means I need to personally sort through my issues myself. Because sometimes the issue lies with us, and we just need to sort through those things, and it doesn't even have to reach our partner. The partner can get the love, right? We don't have to deflect on them what our deficiencies are and issues that we're having with ourselves. So let's grab it at the deflecting phase, reassess it, deal with ourselves so that by the time we get to our partner, they're getting something good, not something recycled. All right.
I'm gonna let you know right now. I don't have no issues. I'm good. And as a matter of fact, I'm right about every single thing. I ain't never been wrong. What?
And Maria, come back, please.
You ain't never been wrong? Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you about this time. Blah 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 blah. My wife will always do that in a minute, man. Oh my God. Oh, every time.
Go ahead.
She has a really good memory. She remembers a lot of stuff that I forget about. She remembers everything.
Wow.
And I'd be like, okay, now you're making up stuff. That didn't happen.
You know what though? You made me think about something. And I'm looking at Bruce was saying emotional intelligence. Sometimes intelligence can be the enemy of unity, because intelligence says, put it like this: misguided intelligence says, I think I know it all. And when you think you know it all, it disrupts the unity. So sometimes
the other person doesn't feel like they can make any type of contribution that is significant because you know it all. So what am I doing?
And so it's not that there's a crime to be intelligent. It just needs to be ushered with humility.
Right.
You gotta be humble. When you're delivering your intelligence, be humble. That'll be inviting to the other person. The other person will say, oh, I can talk, because they're not trying to make me feel minuscule or think they know way more than me. So you gotta be able to be humble when you are delivering, because when you think that you're super intelligent, it is like I said, it's the enemy of unity when it comes to couples. So someone has to humble down when you feel those flares going up high and you trying to talk and make the other person be like, didn't you know that? I told you, get on somewhere. That'll intimidate somebody quick. So you gotta bring that down and just be regular and talk and just get the points done and get situations done, because you can't help who you are, but you can help how you season. Like we season our food specifically, we can season our words.
Because here we go, Charles. I'm gonna put it to you like this. So if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the room by yourself.
Ooh, wow. That's good. Yeah.
I've been in a lot of rooms by myself, so
I'm sure, right, Maria? I'm sure, yeah.
I'm sure you're in the room by yourself too.
Literally, I'm here by myself. But anyway, so yeah, man. All right, Joe. Well, this is a great show. Y'all, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Definitely keep supporting, like, and share if you feel led. And we'll see you guys next week. Be safe, y'all.
Peace.
All right.